You're tuned in to Shake, Rattle, and Goal, the official podcast of your Springfield Thunderbirds.
Osmanski, a one-timer deflected side of the goal. Alexandrov scores! Hosted
by Matt Baker and Steve Forney. A show that's everything Springfield hockey, with interviews including players, coaches, and staff.
The Springfield Indians repeat as the Calder Cup champions.
Listen to this podcast on all major streaming platforms and wherever you download podcasts.
In his first year at the helm, Kevin McDonald and Drew Bannister have the Teamers in the Calder Cup Finals.
Watch the podcast on the official Shake, Rattle, and Goal YouTube page at SRG Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker and Steve Forney.
And this episode number 11 of the Shake, Rattle, and Gold podcast is proudly brought to you by our friends at White Lion Brewing in Tower Square in downtown Springfield and their new location in Amherst, your go-to pre-game spot for Thunderbirds games. Alongside Matt Baker, I am Steve Forney. And speaking of White Lion, Matt, everybody got a chance to check out our live streamed episode from White Lion with the celebrity bartending with Bax and Nagel. I don't know. I just think that was an absolute grand slam. I thought everything went about as smoothly as it could go. I loved every minute of it. I want to do it again.
Ditto. I mean, kudos to you for setting up all of our IT and, we had our nice spot. Thank you, Ray Berry, for giving us that kind of side room. That was perfect. Thank you to the players. We had Joey Duzak, Hugh McGing, help me out because Wyatt Kalanick and
Jameson
Reese. And thank you to them for hopping on. We had a nice chat with Nate Costa, team president, and Ryan Smith, play-by-play. So it was wonderful to talk to them. If you haven't listened, go back into our library and check that out, because great insight. And even our first interview with Thunderbird superfan Brady.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
It was wonderful. He had great insight. He definitely knows this team and knows hockey. So it was great to chat with him right off the bat too.
Yeah, super smart kid. And I felt bad because the only technical issue we had was freaking YouTube. Yeah, everything was all set to go. We're ready to go. And then YouTube couldn't talk to StreamYard, which is the app we use. And StreamYard couldn't connect to YouTube. And meanwhile, Brady's talking and I'm like, yeah. And I'm spending all my time trying to figure out the stupid YouTube. But no, we got it. We got it up and rolling. And big thanks to Bax and Nagel for joining us as well. Mm-hmm. Was there a particular comment or interview that you loved? I mean, you've gone back and listened to it now. I've listened to it way more times than I care to admit because I'm so obsessed with this stuff. But
I've listened to it a few times. You know what? I mean, it wasn't, to me, it's just fascinating how different personalities interact and how how nice it was to talk to Jameson Reese, Joey Duzak. They're very comfortable chatting with us. I thought it was great. I enjoyed talking to Nate and getting insight from the team and the AHL sort of collaboration with the affiliate up in St. Louis here for the Springfield Thunderbirds. I'd love to pick his brain a little bit more. I know that wasn't really the setting to hey, Nate, chat with us for 45 minutes. Cause I would love to know more about the ins and outs of that. Cause that's cool to me. That stuff, I think, as a fan too, you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't really know. And this was something that I would love to figure out over the course of the season, chatting with other members of the front office or Nate but how does a team get constructed? And Nate kind of talked a little bit about that, how, Springfield's vision and they want to put together a winning brand and they have, but you need St. Louis to be okay with that. And even we've talked a little bit about it. We don't have all the information, so I don't want to speak like an expert on it, but the issue with Chicago and Carolina, it maybe sounds like they just had opposing views as to what their AHL affiliate should be used for. And that's just surprising to me because the Wolves are coming off the Calder Cup itself. So, Carolina, they let good players stay in Chicago. And Carolina has success too. So, but that was fascinating to me to kind of hear that insight. How about you?
Well, I mean, somewhat related to that, I found it really cool how when we were talk about the players that are part of the Carolina organization, and Jamison Reese is part of that organization. It's not this like I don't know, like the kids at the
Outsider looking in, kind
kids
of.
at the cool table. Like they're just like,
Yeah.
well, Dylan Coughlin's here and he's our teammate and he rules, and so we're gonna line up and skate with him. And I thought that was really cool. I can't get over Joey Duzak and how much he hates the warm up. I thought that was his little clip of talking about it. I must have rewound it and watched it back. No joke, like 45 times. When he's like, well, we skate around for 15 minutes. Then what do we do? We go back and sit in the locker room for 16 minutes. So that's not a warm up. Like, it's just the whole thing was hilarious.
Logically, it makes sense. And not playing hockey, I don't have an opinion for it. I mean, I wonder if it's almost just as much for the fans as it is for the players. At this, I mean, because I don't know. I mean, at this level, you're going back. You come out after intermissions, you're not warming up. You do a lap or two, and then you're sitting on the bench, so it isn't needed. You're not stretching.
I do think that the guys that are the most active during those things are the goalies.
Yeah.
And all the stretching that they do it's usually right in front of me at the red line.
Yeah.
And then seeing all those pucks, it's probably more for them than any player. But
Sure.
I've never heard a player talk like that about warm-ups. It's fantastic.
Well, now do you pay attention to the players who are the last in?
What do you mean, like the last on the ice?
Yeah, well, when warm-ups are over and there's usually 4 or so players. Will Bitton is usually one of them who stay late, last ones off the ice, collecting all the pucks into the goal. I'd love to maybe I'm going to try to pay more attention to that, the games where I am, because I'd love to be able to chat with them and just get their view. Hey, do you like the warm-ups? Like, are you doing it to work on something? Are you trying to get into a zone in warm-ups? Because you have a Joey Duzak who can't wait to get back into the locker room because this is pointless. And then you have some guys who just seem to want to stay on the ice a little bit longer to clean up the pucks or whatever. I mean, I have no idea what they want to do, but I don't know.
Well,
cool.
Not even
that was cool.
Not even the last guy on the ice, but who's the first one to go back to the locker room? I bet it's Joe Duzak. I'm curious, like how much time is left at warmups before he's like, all right, I'm out, I'm done with this, and he just goes back to the locker room.
I could picture him 8 minutes left, and he's just trying to sneak in. Coach Bannister's like, get back out there. It's like, oh man. Classic.
But it is funny you bring that up. We actually, and it's the off-ice official next to me, is in charge of when there's about a minute left in warmups of opening the penalty box door and making sure that everybody gets off the ice in time. And if the horn goes off and it's zeros and it's maybe 2 or 3 seconds and you're heading towards the locker room, that's fine. But if you're just out there twirling around and goofing off, they get fined. So,
wow.
So if you're out on the ice lingering 5 to 10 seconds after the horn goes off, you're gonna get a notice from the league. So, it is interesting that, and it happens a lot. And some of these guys, they're just like, I think they know they're going to get fined. They just don't seem to care. They're just like, whatever, I'll pass the hat around or whatever it is. But that entire conversation was great. Again, you're right. All those players were awesome. I've never talked to any of them before then, and they just sat down like we were homies. So that was a lot of fun. We'll definitely do it again. And again, if you did miss it, it's still up on the YouTube channel. It is on Spotify. It is on Apple Podcasts. So feel free to give it a check out, but it's absolutely worth your time. We didn't even get to really talk at all. We didn't have to, because the guests kept coming. And I want to thank Ryan Smith for that too, because I was assuming I was going to have to get up, try to find a player. Like, hey, you want to come on our podcast? Ryan and Shay Koharski had all of that done for us, where the players are being delivered to us.
Yeah.
That awesome. that was really, really awesome. And I think that they, we're just kind of two guys sitting in our basements doing a podcast, but when the team itself is supportive of what you're doing, and Nate follows us and Ryan is supportive, and I think the team is backing what we do here. And I think that to me shows a lot about the product we're putting out, which I can say to myself is pretty darn good, but they're understanding that we're doing this for the organization. Like we're doing this to help them. And, it's working out great. So that was an absolute home run. And then two of our other guests, Bax and Nagel. Obviously, the Mayflower Marathon is live as of right now. When we're recording here, it's Monday. I went down. I took my students down this morning. We went down to MGM, and I teach broadcasting at a high school. So we had all of my students, not all of them, but some of them going down with video cameras. And we interviewed Mayor Sarno. We interviewed Steve Nagel. We interviewed some people at MGM. So that was really cool. And they were right in the thick of it. So again, the game Wednesday night is 7:00. If you are, first of all, go find all of those high school people, and instead of meeting at a bar and hanging out at like the pub and just awkwardly making conversation, just get Thunderbirds tickets. It's way more fun. Just get your buddy who's in town for the holiday and just go to the game. And while you're there, bring some non-perishable items that will help support the open pantry of Western Massachusetts, which is obviously the main goal here of the Mayflower Marathon and Rock 102 and Bax and Nagel. But again, that game on Wednesday, 7:00 should be a blast. I can't wait against Bridgeport.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, I think we'll talk about sort of this week's upcoming games a little bit at the end, but absolutely, you show up a little bit early, bring your canned good, non-perishable food items, and help to support the Mayflower Marathon and the good stuff that they're doing here for the people of the greater Springfield area. My school, actually, we do a week-long contest by classroom, and my school just wrapped up today. We collected over, as an entire school, I believe it was just over 3,000 items that we'll be donating to the Mayflower Marathon tomorrow afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. And now, Steve, for anyone listening, you just kind of pull right up to the bus loop there at MGM, and they have that nice little setup there. I think they've already filled one trailer, but you just kind of load it right into the trailer, in and out. As far as that's kind of what I'm told. It's a pretty easy process. They do a good job over there getting you in, getting you out, and they appreciate anything that you can do as well.
And they have more than enough volunteers on hand. So, like, if you got a trunk that's full, and we saw this where guys were showing up at pickup trucks with stuff, and it was just a swarm of volunteers opening up the back, they all roll in with shopping carts, and they just unload your car, put it in the shopping carts, bring it over to the tractor trailer, and load it in there. So, it's really quite simple. It's quick. It's easy. And you're really going to make a difference in the lives of people who really need it, especially this time of the year. So, definitely worth your time. And knowing I was going today, I stocked up on the beans and the soup and the vegetables, and I went in there with my hands full. So definitely, and I feel good about it. I feel good about it. So it's definitely worth the time, and tip of the hat to those guys. 30 years of doing it. It's amazing.
It's awesome.
I can't imagine the amount of mouths that they've fed over the years. So they've fed, the people have fed you people who go and donate are the ones who are really making the difference. So a tip of the hat to them. It was good to see them again. They're like, you again? What are you doing here? But they're great guys. So I guess when we look back on, we talk some hockey at this point, we look back on the game that we had. My goodness, I get all my days confused. Was that Friday night? I guess it was
Friday night was Utica. Yeah, Utica Comets. I think probably their best game of the year. Didn't reflect it on the scoreboard. They got the win in overtime, 2-1 win in overtime. So not a high scoring, but just I felt like this was good Springfield hockey. The few notes that I made on this, I think other than the first 10 minutes of the first period, this was a dominating performance by Springfield. And if it wasn't for a hot goalie for Utica, I mean, it could have been 5-0. And how many times have we had to say that if it weren't for a hot Zarenko, if it wasn't for a hot Subban, right? So it happens. You run into a hot goalie. But I think 10 minutes into the first period, Utica already had 10 shots on goal. And I remember thinking like, oh, come on, here we go. But for the game, the Thunderbirds outshot Utica 39-26. 26-12 in just periods 2 and 3. So again, after those first 10 minutes where you gave up 10 quick shots, only surrendering 16 after that point, I thought was a job well done. I thought their defense looked crisp. I thought they did a nice job moving the puck, through the neutral zone. And they just kept peppering shots. And I think that's what this team is capable of doing. All lines were active again. Hugh Money McGing. I don't know. I talking to him at White Lion, I kind of, told him how much I appreciate his hustle and his energy, and he didn't let me down Friday night either. I think he's a spark plug for this team. Quiet leader guy, but definitely a spark plug.
Yeah, and we mentioned the shot totals, but there were opportunities where there was at least 2 or 3 of them where they had open net to shoot at right on the doorstep, and for whatever reason or another, I think they hit 2 posts. I think one of them it got away from him and went like way up over the net, and those don't count as shots. But like, boy, oh boy, you give that guy that shot 9 more times, he's going to score it 9 times. So, they were all over the place. And the biggest thing for me, I think the turning point, and again, it was 2-1 in overtime, but there was a point in the third period. Drew Callen gets called for interference right around the 13-minute mark, and they literally toyed with the Utica power play. They were doing that thing where, you get it in your own zone, you carry it into their zone, you pass it back out of your zone, you get a line change, the next unit comes in, they bring it back into the zone, then they bring it back out of the zone, they possess the puck the entire power play, and then to end it, Utica got called for a tripping penalty. So not only did they dominate the power play, and I will say there was a stretch right before the penalty on Utica where it was about a 20-second stretch where Utica finally got their power play set up, and I was like, don't give one up now, because you've dominated for whatever, a minute and a half of this power play, and now if you let up a cheap one, like, that's going to just be a backbreaker to your confidence and your belief in yourself, right? When you work that hard and then you still give up a goal. And instead it resulted, well, first of all, Malcolm made some incredible saves, and then it leads to a power play. So
yeah,
you talk about just absolutely crushing the moment. That's what happened there in that third period. And then, then you get to overtime, and who else?
God, what a play. I like, could you see it from your vantage point in the box? I was watching the game on AHL TV, and Pekka taking the ice. He didn't have space. They had defenders back. Utica did. And perfect drop pass. He continues to drive the net. He draws both defenders. And again, AHL TV doesn't do a really good job with a lot of replays, but they gave me 2. And to me, it looked like a 5-hole. I don't know if you can tell. If it was
right through the wickets.
And it was one of those shots. And then listening to Kevin Johnson, the post-game interview, sort of, what were you doing? You're just putting it on net and seeing what happens. And yeah, for both of his goals, he's just like, yep, I'm putting it on net and we're going to see what happens. And I mean, that's what a goal scorer does. You put it on net and you end up getting it in. So I hope that continues. One thing I totally agree with you, their PK, if I'm not mistaken, I believe on their PK, they drew 2 penalties. I think the first one was like 52 seconds in to the first, their first PK, they drew a penalty. And then that second one, their PK has been playing great all year. I think that's been very solid.
It's
power play.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I do think in years past, their power play has been extremely frustrating to watch, because you go through 2 minutes of a power play and you can't get anything set up. I feel like this year they've done a better job of rotating the puck around and possessing the puck and putting the puck on net, but still they have struggled scoring goals on their power play. I'll try to, if you had something you wanted to say, I'll try to look up the stats exactly where they are on power play. But
yeah, I believe it happened 3 times, because I'm just looking at the box score. Callen gets called for a penalty, and then a minute and a half later, Dowling gets a call for them. That was in the second period. Later in the second period, McEachern goes off for tripping, and then less than a minute later, Xavier Parent gets a penalty for Utica. And then that one I was talking about in the third, Drew Callen, right around the 13:01 mark, gets the interference. And then at 14:55, Graham Clark gets called for tripping. So I believe it happened 3 times now that you mention it. And I hadn't even noticed that.
I had it for 2, but I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, you talk about turning defense into offense. That's how you do it. I mean, that was amazing.
So looking at their,
go ahead. Give me those numbers.
Looking at their power play percentage, they're sitting at 15.5, which puts them bottom, well, I guess 5th place in their division. But I would like to see that ramp up a little bit. You know, if they could be somewhere high teens, low 20%. I mean, I know last year they kind of went on a 6 games in a row with a power play goal, I believe, or something like that. But they've struggled a little bit. Because they have the goal scoring capability, they have the playmakers, especially on that front line. They're scoring shorthanded goals. Thank you, Nathan Walker. So just the power play. I mean, nothing gets you a little bit more excited if it's not a game winner, a power play goal. And as a fan, I love watching it. You see good puck movement, see a nice 1-2 pass, and then boom, you know, it just happens so fast. And you anticipate it happening. So I'd like to see a little bit more success on the power play this weekend. But other than that, I thought it was a great game. I think it was their best game they've played all year.
Agreed. I will say from my perspective, you know, I got a lot going on down there, and I watch the game as best I can. I think we mentioned in the podcast last time, I never actually get to see a replay of a goal, because when a goal is scored, I have to write everything down and get to on my headset and find out who got the assist and blah, 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 blah. And so I don't get to watch it the same way that other people do. And so for me, when people have a good game or a bad game, it's because, to me, you're either very noticeable or I totally forgot you even played. Like, that's kind of, and Zach Dean was absolutely everywhere. And I know that he took a couple games off. I don't know if that was just because he's a young player and they wanted to figure something out, but he looked absolutely fantastic. And I know he was, and it stinks because 1 shot on goal, he was -1, but he was absolutely awesome. I mean, same thing with Kean Washcrook. Washcrook, no goals, 2 shots, but I thought that he was absolutely everywhere. And, you know, there's 2 guys that, again, it's not going to show up on the score sheet, but the more that they continue to play like that, it's going to come. And I wanted to tip the hat to Zach Dean for just, again, being an absolute menace out there for 3 periods plus.
Yeah, that was one thing that we were going back and forth during the game. I think Zach Dean was all over the place. I think maybe moving McEachern and Laffey onto the third line with him gives him a little bit of confidence. He becomes sort of a bit of a facilitator. It was interesting, though, that I do want to touch upon that bit and high stick. That was absolutely the right call. And I think that would have been Zach Dean's goal.
Yes.
But
he was right in the doorstep and
that's what I mean, right? And those things happened, and it to me, it was the right call to make. It was close, but it definitely the right call to make. And you know, you keep chipping away at it, you keep having games like that. Those breaks fall for you, not against you. And we've been talking about Zach Balduke kind of on that doorstep of a breakout game, and maybe now Zach Dean, let's put another game together like that, and he's right on the doorstep as well. And I think that's a great thing. Now you have 3 high octane lines, and I think it alleviates some of the pressure of that top line too, because we talked about this, Springfield playing 16 games, and right now tied for the league lead in games played. And you look at guys who have played all 16 of those games, and it's your obviously your top line, Walker, Pekka, and Gaudette. And if you have 3 lines that you're confident make plays or will go out there and hustle, that can kind of maybe alleviate some of those minutes for that top line, which keeps their legs fresh. Keep a nice healthy rotation in there. And it seems like Coach Bannister has been kind of rotating a little bit with that fourth line, trying to get guys some playing time. But if you could have a nice solid top three lines for your forwards, I think that's good. And Zach Dean progressing and continuing to develop is nothing but a good thing for the Thunderbirds.
Yeah, and I get the impression that Bannister is the kind of coach to ride the hot line.
Sure.
And I think, maybe again, the reason it was noticeable to me was because Dean and Washcrook played more than they usually do. It seemed, I wish they tracked minutes on AHL TV.
Yeah.
But those two, if your second line or your third line or your fourth line is playing great hockey, you don't have to send out the ones just because they're the ones.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, what a good way to alleviate the pressure put on the top line. Having said that, and it was crazy, I had to look it up. Adam Gaudette had 10 shots on goal by himself. And that is a massive number. Like, that is a lot of shots, man. So, I mean, hey, 2 of them went in. So
he's a beast. And Tauch, how do you not circle him when you're scouting the Thunderbirds and say, stop this guy right now? I mean, well, we know there are guys up and down this roster fully capable of scoring, but how do you not circle his name to say, stop him? And he's beast mode right now. He's just.
I do want to go back real quick to what you mentioned, because I totally forgot about it till now. The Will Bitten high stick goal that was called back, and I'm a positive and a negative. The negative for me to the fans is there's no need to take it on to social media, and these refs are awful. What are they looking at? What the hell's going on? Blah 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 blah. In the arena, I mean, they were mad about it for a period and a half, and I'm totally cool with. But don't be throwing stuff on the ice, and nobody did that, and don't be vulgar and stuff like that. But the booings and the ref you suck chants and all that's, boy oh boy was it loud in there. They come out for the third period, the refs come out and boos are just raining down on them. And then at one point, the poor official, and again, I see the officials different than everybody else does, but the official fell. So they come out, they skate around a fresh sheet of ice, and this referee just eats it. And the whole place starts cheering. I'm like, you know what? This is why you come to a game, though, right? Like, this is why you come to a game. But having said that, I had such a clear, perfect view of that, and even Luke didn't even hit the goal horn.
Yeah.
The puck went in, the red light went on, and the goal horn didn't even sound because we all knew it's not going to count. So yeah, don't take it on social, but definitely do it at the game. I like that at the game.
I like that. I mean,
don't throw stuff on the ice. Just don't throw stuff on the ice. Then I have to make an announcement and say, stop throwing stuff on the ice, and I don't want to have to do that. It makes us look bad.
Yeah, that there's no reason, because it's not. I always look at it as sort of like, are you creating a bigger problem or solving your problem? And a healthy boo and a healthy ref you suck makes you feel a little better inside. Kind of solves your problem. I'm with you. Throwing stuff onto the ice, it's not solving your problem. You're creating another one. And so I'm glad it didn't resort to that. But I don't know. That's really all I had for this game. I thought it was a very well played game, and only one this weekend. So hopefully, the guys had a nice, restful, productive weekend heading into this 3-game stretch.
Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to mention, and it's sort of a broader topic, I guess, is it's not, I don't know. We've had so many episodes now. I forget what we've talked about and haven't. But when they get into a 3-on-3, and they're obviously not the only team to do this, the bring the puck into the zone, looking around, not seeing much, and then pulling it back out again voluntarily. And, on the surface, I don't like it because it's just just keep the puck in the zone, find a lane and shoot. There's only 6 guys on the ice. Like, figure this out. Then you watch it happen like it happened in that Utica game where they pull the puck out. It forces everybody out of the zone. They find a lane. Pekka crashes the cage, drop pass. Everybody's out of position. If you pull everybody out and you have speed and you re-enter with speed, the lanes are way more there than they are if you guys are just twirling the puck around in the zone forever. Having said that, 2 things. Number one, apparently there are teams who, because I heard a little bit of this on social media talking about it, there are teams who will just do that constantly. And either A, they just want to get to the shootout, or B, they'll make sure that the defense never changes, because a lot of times it's a long change. So
Sure. Yes.
the defense have to go all the way over there to change. So they'll bring it in, pull it out, get a line change. Bring it in, pull it out, get a line change. Meanwhile, the other team's defense is staying on the ice for 4.5 minutes. And I don't want to see that, right? That's just boring. Like, at least take it to the net or do something with it. But I have heard that the NHL is going to look into banning that for next season, or at some point. And
Sure.
to me, it's like,
What would you call like a delay of game kind of penalty? Is that what you're or the league
I don't know.
might
I
be
mean,
thinking? Yeah.
I don't know how you regulate that. I mean, what happens if a guy passes the puck back and it hops over a guy's stick and goes out of the offensive zone? It's like the delay of game. Like they made the delay of game rule, flipping the puck over the glass, for good purpose, because guys were doing it when they were tired. But how many times does it happen accidentally? And it's like, like, here we go. Now I got another delay of game penalty, right? So they make rules for one specific tiny thing, and it makes the game worse sometimes.
Yeah.
I just say, like, look, you wanted the 3-on-3, like, to the NHL. You wanted the 3-on-3. You got the 3-on-3. Teams are figuring out how to score goals in the 3-on-3, and now you don't like it. Like,
which is ironic, right? Because they established the 3-on-3 because they wanted offense.
Right.
I personally, I would like to see it. I don't mind a 4-on-4. I don't like the 3-on-3 personally.
I really don't either.
It doesn't resemble. If you're going to do that, just go straight to penalty shots. It doesn't. It doesn't resemble real hockey.
Agreed.
And if I just saw two teams battle it out for 60 minutes, if that's going to continue, I want it to resemble what we just saw. Right. So this is just a personal preference. If it was a 4-on-4, I'd be okay with that. Probably it resembles a little bit more of real hockey. And maybe if you defensively, if you're playing 4-on-4, maybe there would be a way where, your defensive scheme can catch up to that sort of tactic of going in and then pulling it out and going in and pulling it out. Maybe you keep somebody a little bit higher on that blue line to prevent them from pulling it out.
Yeah, I mean, you can play. Yeah, you can play in a diamond defensively, 4-on-4. You don't have to play man to man. You can. That's where I think you're exactly right. Is that 4-on-4? There's so much more to do schematically. Like, do you want to have, like, 3-on-3? You're pretty much always going to get 2 forwards and a defenseman on the ice, because you got to have the defenseman. You go 4-on-4, you could have 2 and 2. You could have 3 forwards and 1 defenseman. If you're really confident in your center, you could go 4 forwards on the ice. You could win a face-off and then change it, pull a defenseman off, put a forward on. Like, there's just way more strategy involved than just, like, 2 forwards and a defenseman, go out there and try your best. But you're right. I like the way you put it. It doesn't resemble hockey. It doesn't resemble hockey.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and anytime you lose an overtime or a shootout, absolutely, there's a sour taste in your mouth, because you fought hard. And Springfield was on the wrong side of this the other night in Bridgeport. But I don't know. It seems to me like you're setting up a 3-on-3, and you really are. Your strategy is just to enter the zone with speed, and you hope to put it on net. And that's it. And then and if the goalie makes a save, it's the other team's turn, and they're going to try to figure out a way to rush their offensive zone, put it on net. And it's just good. I don't know. It doesn't resemble much
like basketball.
To me, so.
And, I saw something like that. It was like, something like that. It was like, well, they should put a shot clock in at overtime. I'm like, first of all, no, that's dumb. Second of all, why are we? The NHL wanted the 3-on-3, and now we have to make all these different weird change. Like you said, now we're changing the game just to adhere to the 3-on-3, which, again, like you said, isn't real hockey. Like, it's just like you said, either make it a tie, bring back ties, or institute 4-on-4. Give me some way to do it besides the 3-on-3. And again, it's not the end of the world to me. Some people get so bent out of shape. I just get bent out of shape of the fact that the NHL doesn't like the way that the teams are playing the 3-on-3.
Right.
So
To me, I give all kudos to the teams. That, I mean, like, and here in Western Mass, that's like a Bill Belichick thing. Let me find the loophole and let me exploit it. And so I don't have a problem with that. I'm against changing rules just for an overtime, like establishing a shot clock or something like that. No, like that's not in the game. I don't like changing rules. I don't like adding penalties just in overtime. Play the game of hockey. If anyone ever asks me my vote, I go 4-on-4, and I'm happy with that. And then I like shootouts. It's high energy. It's exhilarating. You're at the edge of your seat. It's tense. Sure, I'd love to be on the winning end of it every time. I know I can't be as a fan, but it's tense. Like, that's sport to me. You win some, you lose some, but I want to be able to cheer loud for my team. Shootouts give me that opportunity, so I don't mind those. But
it's the one thing that I saw brought up that actually kind of fascinated me a little bit, was because they do have a problem with guys going so slow in the shootouts, and they take like way too long. And somebody said that they should change the shootout to where, as soon as they touch the puck, a defender gets to chase them from their own blue line.
Oh,
so you're at the red line. As soon as you touch the puck, the guy in the blue line gets to take off and try to take it from you.
Oh,
like chasing you, not like going head to head, but they're chasing you. From behind.
I mean,
I think that's great.
I think that would be cool. I do think, like, if we're realistically, that's just, you're looking for injuries that way, though.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I could see,
down and tripped.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be.
That's they changed the icing calls, and things like that to try to avoid that crash. I could see a lot of guys getting thrown into the net, goalies getting hurt, but that would be like XFL style.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So anyway, a little bit on that as well. By the way, real quick, the SRG podcast, episode number 11, proudly sponsored by our friends at White Lion Brewing and their new location in Amherst on North Pleasant Street. Of course, also right downtown in Springfield at Tower Square at 1500 Main Street, the place to go prior to Springfield Thunderbirds games. Don't forget, too, you can park in the Tower Square garage. That's the one where it's the big ramp that goes like up, sort of above, right near the hotel. If you park there and you show them your T-Birds ticket at White Lion, they'll validate your parking for you. So parking will be free. While you're there, grab some Boomer Nachos, Sue's Mac and Cheese. I'll tell you what, the other night I took home some of those Buffalo boneless wings. It was the biggest freaking chicken tender I've ever seen in my life. The thing was massive.
Yeah.
So the food, and they were excellent. So, and again, while you're there, have some White Lion beers. They have tons there, but they also have a bunch in your local liquor store cooler. White Lion Brewing now in Amherst in downtown Springfield, a proud local sponsor of the SRG podcast. Make sure you tell them when you go that the boys at SRG sent you. And, it's you and I certainly weren't getting like, fall over drunk, but we were definitely having a couple brewskis while we were there. And I just had a couple Pilsners. They were delicious. I don't want to get. I don't want to have a whole bunch of double IPAs be slurring all over the place. But those nice little Pilsners were nice.
I may have had one, but it's good. I can't complain. And even like I said, my wife and I, we've done this before too. You get a flight of different style beers or different flavor beers, and you start in Boston. You make your way all the way down to the Berkshires on their little flight palette there that they have.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's shaped as Massachusetts, but so good times.
I know we have some social media reaction. I don't know if you have that pulled up at all, Matt, but we do like to hear from you, the fans, and there was a couple of topics, or at least one topic that was brought up that
one on our Instagram, Skylar Yost had asked about Mikhail Abramoff and his performance, and he's got 13 games. So he's played in 13 out of the 16. He's got 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists. He's racked 6 penalty minutes. I think he's a fourth line guy right now. I look for him when he's in. I don't feel like he is invisible out there. He's hustling. I don't know. Do you have a different sense? I don't feel like he's performing bad. I think maybe we thought, can he break out a little bit? It's a talented team. So 13 games. He has the confidence of Coach Bannister. He's more of in that fourth line rotation. He's in there consistently. I think when Bitten was out for a little bit, he played a little bit of third line minutes. He's got a big goal earlier in the year that helped him win. I think he's playing okay.
I think he's whether or not they're fair, I think that the expectations for him are higher than what he's performing. When we talk about that Ryan O'Reilly trade, I think it was because he went to Toronto and you got back Gaudette and Abramov. And look, the St. Louis Blues weren't like, yeah, we'll trade you our franchise center for 2 minor leaguers, right? Like they were expecting bigger things. And real quick, 34 games here in Springfield in the season and a half, and he's got 13 points. So that's just not gonna cut it. I mean, and again, he's not like he's some first round hotshot, but the markings and the makings were all there for this player to be a really, really productive player. And he had productive numbers in the QMJHL for the Victoria Tigers. So he was a captain his last year there. His last season in the playoffs, 24 points in 19 games in the Q. So, the expectations are there, and whether or not they're fair or not. But I'm not seeing anything out of the player that like you get stretches from the Deans and the Bolducs where you're like, whoa, like that was explosive. I just haven't seen that in a year and a half from Abramov. So you're right. I don't know. Maybe they're still trying to find a place for him, trying to find the right pieces. He reminds me of like Henrik Borgstrom, who was a guy who played when we were affiliated with Florida, who you just kept waiting for like, all right, when's it going to come? When's it going to come?
Yeah.
When's it going to come? And he won a Calder Cup with Hershey. Good for him, but he's a first round talent. He should have been bigger and better than that, And I look at the guy like Owen Tippett, who was here, and it came. We were waiting for it, and it came, and now he's playing the second line up in Philly for the Flyers. So it's like, I keep waiting for it to come with that player, Abramov, and I'm not really seeing it. So,
I mean, but look, he was a 4th round pick. I'm going to defend him a little bit here. A 4th round pick. He's still, let me do the math.
22.
He's born in 21, so he's 22. Still young. I don't know. I guess I look at it too, and he has played in 13 games. So he is having opportunities to make himself more of a presence, and he's I guess struggling to do that. But also in sparing minutes. I mean, again, I wish AHL did a better job tracking player time on ice. I wouldn't put him in over Mackenzie Kekkerin or Laffey.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no room.
So where would you, if you wanted to try to give him more time on ice, more consistent time on ice? I mean, it's twofold. A, he has to earn it, and B, you then have to drop someone back. And it's fair. You're not really there yet. So I guess maybe
there are other players who aren't on the score sheet, but Kean Washcrook brings an added element. Zach Dean brings another element. These guys have either a physical presence or speed and energy and excitement. And Abramov doesn't. If he's not, he's a scorer. And if he's not scoring, then he's just kind of floating around.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have 2 guys who aren't scorer, who are you gonna play? Kean Washcrook or Mikhail Abramov? You know what I mean? Like, I'll take Washcrook.
I'll take Washcrook. Yeah. And so we'll see. Yeah. I mean, it's fair to criticize, but I don't know. Maybe this is just one of those where St. Louis lost that deal, and to Springfield's benefit, we got Gaudette and
I'd have to look at it too. I don't know if they got a pick. They probably got a pick. Everybody gets picked.
Yeah, they got picks.
So they probably. I don't know if that was the Dalibor Dvorsky trade. I don't follow that closely enough, and so forgive me, but I'm sure there were picks swapped there too. But we'll see. We'll see the 3 games in 4 days this weekend. So we'll see with the holiday thrown in the middle. So Jamison Reese, that was the other player I was thinking. There's another guy who's not on the score sheet, but he seems to bring He's like Washcrook. He just brings a lot to the table. So
Yep.
anyway, one thing that came out that I saw this week, and if anybody's on Twitter, it is Twitter. It's not X, it's Twitter. I follow a guy. He goes by Chris C, as in Chris, and his handle is at Crunchman93. And every single game night, he tweets out attendance numbers from everybody across the league, and he puts together these charts of attendance.
Mm-hmm.
And so every now and then he'll put out one that has like the season wide numbers. And so, like for instance, his number one, he does it by average fans in the building. So number one, he has Cleveland at over 8,700 people on a nightly basis on average. Now the capacity that is only 47% at capacity, because I assume they play in a pretty big, I think it's where the Cavaliers play. It's probably a pretty big spot out there in Cleveland. But Springfield's average nightly attendance is 5,977, so almost 6,000 people. But your capacity percentage is literally 0.01%. Oh, that's a lot of numbers. Under 88%. You're at 87.99% capacity. Like, that to me is awesome. I mean, that means that you guys are all coming out. I mean, I look at Colorado. Colorado's capacity is at 100%. They've had sellouts all 6 of their games, but their building only holds a little over 5,000 people. So their average nightly attendance is lower than ours, but they're at 100% capacity. So, I tip of the hat, 88% is a great number for Springfield. I know we'd love it to be 98%, but tip of the hat to the Thunderbirds fans for coming out all the games so far this season. It's been great.
I tip of the hat to you, the fans. Tip of the hat to the front office staff for putting together different promotions and drawing in new crowds. It's not like, what's the number here? I have it pulled up here. It's not like out of the average 5,977 that 5,000 of them are season ticket holders. And, you're bringing in consistently new fans to the game on a nightly basis. So hats off to the front office staff, hats off to Springfield fans and surrounding towns. I think having school nights every night, I think helps with that. And I think it's great. It's a great way to get the kids. I mean, your son did this as well, singing the national anthem and God Bless America pregame. And man, I never had that opportunity as a kid, but I wish I did. That would have been cool. So hats off to the hard workers in the front office and the Thunderbirds for putting on a show that people want to keep watching.
Yeah. I mean, even Friday night, and, it's not like, I don't think we're giving out a state secret or anything, but, they had a school group singing God Bless America. Then you had a school group singing the national anthem. Then you had one hockey team holding the American flag. You had another hockey team holding the Thunderbirds flag. So you're looking at 100 kids all on the ice, and they don't come alone. Mm-hmm. So if mom or dad or grandpa or aunts and uncles, whoever is there coming to the game, right? So now you're taking that was 100 kids, multiplying it by at least 2 or 3. And now you just made yourself, an extra 300 to 400 people in the building that just on that basic promotion. So again, we're not state secreting anything here, but that's how the front office is doing it. And, I imagine that, I don't remember how it works, but my guess is those tickets are discounted. Like if you're if our kids are singing the national anthem and you want to go to the game, I think your tickets are like part of a school day package or something like that.
Yeah. And they actually, they're discounted and they kick back to the local PTO.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So and so you get a lot of, I know in my building, as the building I teach in, I would get discounted tickets if I go to, even if my kids aren't singing. So they kick back to the local PTOs and they're discounted to begin with. So
cool. That's awesome. I mean, that's great. It's what it's all about. I also just want to real quick say congratulations to Hartford, because last year this number was so much lower. And this is what happens when you make a cup run like they did. Hartford is below Springfield. but they are at averaging a little over 5,000, 5,100 fans. Now, again, that building percentage is only 33% because the XL Center is freaking cavernous.
It's XL. It's huge. It
is XL, really. But that number was around 3,000 last year before they made the run. So I don't know. The fact that their numbers are going up, I think, is good for everybody. Nobody likes playing in front of an empty building. I imagine fans don't either. So the fact that those numbers are up, I think, is good for everybody.
Agreed.
All right, Matt, you want to take a look here at some of the games we have upcoming in the next?
Yeah, absolutely. So this upcoming week, we've got 3 games, all home. Part of, I believe, what is the middle games of a 5-game homestand for the Springfield Thunderbirds. Wednesday, Bridgeport comes into the Thunderdome. This is the Mayflower Marathon canned food drive game. Again, you show up early, bring your canned goods and non-perishable food items. As far as hockey goes for this, it's time that we dominate Bridgeport.
Agreed.
I don't go into it, this is a must win. It isn't, but I don't take joy in saying this. Bridgeport's a bad team. And it's about time that we need to dominate 3 periods. What we did the last 2 periods against Utica, I would like to see the Thunderbirds do that for 3 periods against Bridgeport. And I think
if they score early, Bridgeport will lay down. Like, you get up 2-0 in the first period, they'll lay down, and the rest of the game will be a cake. They just got to get on the board. You can't make Bridgeport think they can win.
Yeah, and I mean, just I don't know. I get the puck in deep, set your offense up, get through the neutral zone smoothly. I mean, because these are things that they haven't been able to do these first 2 games against Bridgeport. And granted, the first one was coming off the 3-3. We've talked about that. Their second 3-3 in a row. So they were tired. And the second game, overtime loss. But even in the overtime loss, I didn't feel like Bridgeport still was able to dictate pace and do what they want with the puck. So I'm looking for Springfield to dominate this one. Friday night against Hartford is your Deuces Wild Friday. $2 Coors Light, $2 hot dog, $2 sodas through the first period. Does Sam Bitten make an appearance at home? I feel like this would be a spot for it because you've got Hartford, who you've now seen a few times, and I think they need to establish some aggression against Hartford. And so does Sam Bitten do that Friday night? I would say absolutely yes, except for now, Saturday, their third game this week, home against Utica, is Bitsy's Army Hockey Fights Cancer Night, which I would imagine you are kind of profiling Sam and Will Bitten. This is kind of their foundation. So does Sam play 2 nights in a row? I'm not sure. But against Hartford, I don't know. I feel like they need to establish physicality, a little bit of controlled aggression. I don't think if they're in the penalty box a lot against Hartford, it could be a long night. So stay out of the box, but I think they need to establish a little bit more physicality than they have early in the season against Hartford. Sam's the guy to do that. So I'm thinking that could be a spot for him, but I don't know if you play him 2 nights in a row.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he'll definitely be in the lineup for Saturday. But you're right. I know everything you said is spot on. Like, you can't let Hartford push you around anymore. We do have to also keep in mind Ryan Suzuki is now officially on the lineups, being sent.
Yes, thank you for
Carolina.
Yeah.
So you got to try to find. I mean, he could play. So you got to try to find a little room for him, even though he's not a St. Louis Blue. But he was on the Chicago Wolves team that beat you in the Calder Cup, as was Jamison Reese. So, that experience is gonna. I mean, it's invaluable as far as I'm concerned when you have guys in the locker room, whether they're new or old, that have gotten that far and had that kind of success. So I'm interesting to see him. I mean, 6'1", $190. I don't know if he's going to be your physical presence, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle the rosters with not only Sam Bitten and Suzuki, but the goaltending. It'll be interesting to see how it all comes together.
Let me ask you this, Steven, and we're just ready to wrap up here. And I'm glad you mentioned Suzuki. Does he fit on that fourth line with Reese? Already having some chemistry, already having a little bit of continuity. They've played together before. That could be something that really is interesting. I know Reese was on the fourth line with Callan and Washbrick on last weekend against Utica's. So that will be interesting. And again, now we're talking about Mikhail Abramov. I think it's a good problem to have. Injuries will happen as the season goes on. But finding enough playing time for these guys, and I think it leads to a little bit of healthy competition.
I think it's time to maybe give Drew Callan a rest. Again, to just 2 not great penalties in that Utica game. Ryan Suzuki's also a center. So I think that they actually have the excuse in the window to give Drew Callan at least a game or 2 off this weekend and put Suzuki down there at center. But he's also the same guy that can play special teams too. So he's better than he's a better player than fourth line minutes. But if he's also killing penalties and he's also, you're looking for a spark on your power play, who knows? You throw this guy in the second power play unit and see what happens. So I do expect him to get in and probably on the fourth line and probably instead of Drew Callan would be my guess.
Makes sense.
So interesting. Well, we thank everybody for listening and for watching. Real quick on those Bitsies, the Bitsies Army game, they just released the uniform, which is sweet. If you're watching our YouTube page, we'll pop up a video or a photo of it. And those jerseys are also going to be auctioned off post game. So I'll be down there with Kevin Johnson. We'll do the auction for you guys to take those things home, but they are pretty sweet. So again, I love what the Thunderbirds do. My Facebook memory today was the video that the Thunderbirds did for my dad when they honored him at Hockey Fights Cancer Night a couple years ago. And I didn't watch it because I knew we were going to start podcasting and I didn't want to be a puddle. But they always do so great with these kind of events and these kind of weekends. And I think they have something really special going here with Bitsy's Army. And I'm sure the Bitten family is very grateful for it too. And so you got that to look forward to. Other than that, Matt, this was great. Time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
So we look forward to a great weekend slate of games.
3 games this weekend. Let's go T-Birds.